I went from being a hardcore anti-vaccine activist, convincing people not to vaccinate their children, to now wanting to vaccinate my daughter and getting the COVID vaccine for myself. People were listening to me as if I was a doctor, and it makes me cringe to look back and think about the kind of influence I may have had.
That's Heather. She went from anti-vaxxer to advocate. And now joining our discussion is Heather's husband, Ben, who refuses to get the COVID vaccine. And as you can imagine, is causing conflict in their marriage. So, Ben, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, happy to be here.
Ben, and you know, we're so glad you're joining in the conversation. I think this is going to help so many people out there that may be in a similar situation, which, as I can imagine, is pretty tough on the relationship. So tell us, Ben, why don't you want to get the COVID vaccine? Why are you so mistrusting of it?
Well, I think mistrust would maybe be a little bit of a misnomer. I don't believe that I would need to get the vaccine because I previously had COVID and have shown antibodies in the past to have some, natural immunity. So the reason I knew I had antibodies was I donated blood twice, and so I, had positive tests both those times. So it would have been before that. So I did have a little bit of some cold symptoms in October of last year. So we're assuming that that's the case, or when it happened, but we don't know.
I know in those kind of cases, it's tough to know for sure when the symptoms are pretty minimal. So Ben, you're not really sure if you had COVID or not. You had some symptoms. I'd like to know, did you actually get a PCR COVID test that you tested positive and knew that you had COVID-19 disease?
No, I didn't get a COVID test at the time.
So you did not get COVID tested. But so then,
No.
So you're functioning now, assuming that you did have COVID, you're not 100% sure, and then you feel that you probably have antibodies circulating in your body, which you feel are probably affording you a certain amount of immunity.
Well, I mean, I've had, at this point, 2 positive antibody tests.
Okay.
So that would be, obviously, I wouldn't have had antibodies unless I had COVID.
And when was the last one?
June.
All right. Well, Ben, you were good enough to agree to get a COVID antibody test just a few days ago. So, are you ready?
Sure, go ahead.
The results, no antibodies. 0.
Okay.
Not a 1. So, your body did, if it did in fact produce those antibodies are now gone. And we know that can happen, or it can be something just related to the antibody tests, because we know there's false positives and false negatives.
Sure.
That's crazy, though. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, because I've had positive in the past, I would want to get retested. But if that's, again, came back as negative, especially if I did a quantitative test as well as a qualitative, then, then I would definitely feel open to getting the COVID vaccine. My issue previously was if I have natural immunity, then, extra isn't bad, but it's unnecessary. And so if that's no longer the case, then, getting out and being inoculated would be good.